Hi, this is Jennifer Dono. I'm the director of Young Female Entrepreneurs, and you're watching the Young Female Entrepreneurs live stream, part of youngfemaleentrepreneurs.com. It happens every Thursday night here at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, live at ovali.tv/live. And of course, like every Thursday, this live stream is brought to you by ovali.com. Ovali.com. At Ovali, we sell hosting. In that respect, we are a little like GoDaddy, except that Ovali is owned by women and ran by women. We offer you the same services we use to build our business. At Ovali, we simply want to help you create something for you. So thank you to Ovali. And of course, I am a young female entrepreneur because of Ovali, full disclosure. So I'm very excited for this evening's live stream because we have Nancy Nguyen. And she is actually a brand new author of The Networking Diary, which I believe I have up on the back screen. Yeah, let me try and open this up a little bit for you guys. You can see she's got a video down there that you should all watch. So if you go to thenetworkingdiary.com after this live stream, oh gosh, her story is amazing. And of course, she's going to tell it on the live stream tonight, so I guess you'll already know it. But she's going to be sharing her secrets to networking success. And so stick around. It's about 30 minutes, this live stream. There are definite benefits for showing up live. You get to participate in the chat with other young female entrepreneurs and then also ask our guest questions live. So if you've got questions about networking, next Thursday, we have Erica Zeidel on, and I have a photo of Erica on there. She is of sittingaround.com. That's Erin of Well in LA. Erin's the YFE ambassador out of Los Angeles who has an event coming up, so we'll get back to her image in just 1 second. But Erica's at the very beginning. Yeah, there she goes. So Erica's next week, and sittingaround.com is this fantastic site for parents, really, or for babysitters, nannies, and she's doing some really cool things as far as the little square reader goes, being pretty innovative in small ways. She's also a mom, and she was on the cover of Entrepreneur magazine back in December. So I mean, come on. Next Thursday is going to be an awesome show. I'm very excited about it. So apart from the live stream, we have a YFE chat over on Twitter on Monday, which is always so much fun. I always meet the best young female entrepreneurs on the live or on the Twitter chat. And so that happens on Monday, June 25th at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern. So it's at night. Sorry to those on the East Coast, but if you're like me, you're probably up at 11 at night anyway. Whether you're tweeting in bed or at the couch, join us for the live or for the Twitter chat. So apart from the Twitter chat, we also have a book club going on led by Jessica Newell and Morgan Hatton. And it's about creativity, getting our ideas out on paper and moving forward with it. And here you can see a prompt. There's a private Facebook group that you can join and get in on the discussion. It's very lively. And the last thing is in real life meetings. We've got one happening in LA in July with Erin of Well in LA, who that we showed the gorgeous photo of earlier. She's got one happening. You can go to youngfemaleentrepreneurs.com to find out all about it. So if you want to meet other young women like yourself that are building businesses in their 20s and 30s, make sure that you check that out. So, oh my goodness, that was a lot of stuff really fast. I apologize, guys. Or should I say ladies? But anyway, if you have questions, I just want to remind you, if you're joining us now, we have Nancy Nguyen of The Networking Diary. She's an author of the book, The Networking Diary. She's also owner of Sweet Tea Salon, and she was the 2011 Miss Corporate America. So we've got a lot to talk to her about tonight, and I want to get to her as soon as possible. But I am on the live chat, so if you have questions for her, make sure you chat them in. We also have the Skype call-in feature, and I don't know if any of you guys will do it, but if you're interested in getting a shout out for your business and asking a question live on the monitor, on the TV, the Skype call-in number is YFE call-in, and you just add YFE call-in as your contact, and then I'll make sure that you're a legitimate person and not naked or anything like that, and then I'll pop you back on the TV, and we'll go ahead and ask Nancy a question that way, which I think is pretty cool. So, anyway, let's go ahead and introduce Nancy in. So, let me switch over to my iPad. Nancy is just gorgeous too, and I met her the funniest way through.
Hold on. What's going on there?
We're fixing a couple things. So I met. Can I talk?
There we go.
Okay. So I met Nancy through the YEC. We were doing a Google Hangout, and Nancy was getting her hair and makeup done for a ball, right?
It was actually the Flight of Honor to welcome back the World War II veterans.
Yeah. It was amazing, and she was just super busy and just talking to everyone. I was really impressed by her. So Nancy T. Nguyen is a first-generation American trilingual entrepreneur and the author of The Networking Diary. She's been quoted in the Wall Street Journal, Huffington Post, and Inc.com. After earning a BA in Spanish at North Carolina State University, Nancy established her career at the Chicago White Sox and City of Chicago while serving as an ambassador for DePaul's Graduate School of Business. She studied business and networked in Japan and Peru. Nancy founded Sweet Tea Salon in Raleigh, North Carolina. She is a lifelong advocate of Locks of Love. Oh, I love Locks of Love. The SPCA, while walking, or Art Reach for Kids, and Alpha Kappa Psi Coed business fraternity. After surviving a hit and run while walking, she was crowned as Miss Corporate America in 2011. She works to inspire entrepreneurs throughout the world. I love your bio. It's just amazing. It goes on and on and on. So welcome on to the show, Nancy. Thank you so much for being on Young Female Entrepreneurs live stream.
Thank you.
So we just went over a pretty lengthy bio, but why don't you go ahead and fill in some of the missing pieces? Why an MBA? Why Sweet Tea Salon? Why the direction that you took? Why did you go in that direction?
Well, while I was doing the MBA, I was working at the City of Chicago as well as the Chicago White Sox. And I had dreamed of being an HR executive for a Fortune 500 company. So I worked in both organizations in HR, and I realized that I wanted to do more than that. And I wanted to take my experiences as an HR professional into my own business. So after the MBA, I ran into an article that said, ways to know you're an entrepreneur. And it was like 20 things. And it was all 20 things that related to me. And I said, oh my goodness, that's what I'm trying to do. But I didn't really understand. So I found out that my mom's former hair salon, it was called Classy Cuts, was for sale. And I flew down. Within 30 days, I left Chicago, packed up my bags. Actually, I packed up my bags, called a rock band off of Craigslist to bring my stuff down because it would have cost $3,000 to get Ryder or a moving company. It only cost me $600 to get the van to bring my items down. And so that was the beginning. Came down, and I had already been starting on a brand called Sweet Tea, and T is my middle initial. And because I love going to country music concerts, I wanted to create a brand that says, hey, country comes in all colors. And I wanted to create a clothing line out of it, all kinds of neat things. But because the salon was available, I said, what about sweetteasalon.com? So I looked it up. It was available. And I said, that's it. Let's do it. So I went down there, and last year we rebranded the business from Classy Cuts to Sweet Tea Salon, and we've brought that Southern flair to the store. And we have people from all over the U.S. to come to have their services. But when they come in, we serve sweet tea, we give them Southern hospitality. And my hope is to continue on with the branding and bring it into Southern luxury jewelry and other goods, which are in the works right now.
Wow, very incredible. So now talking about, all right, so you've got the salon, you have the education, the travel, the languages, Miss Corporate America. How does it feel to have the success that so many young female entrepreneurs today are only really dreaming of?
It's a lot of fun. It's a whirlwind. I don't think there's enough time to sit down and think about it. But what I love is to hear from the women entrepreneurs who are maybe starting out. And I do love receiving emails with questions about networking or how to even start an LLC or an S-Corp. So these women, they come from either email, Facebook, Twitter, through my store, at my speaking engagements. And when I get these questions, it kind of reminds you of how far you've come along. So I really enjoy running to these women in any kind of way, whether I'm on a plane or traveling through New York or Chicago. That's when I like to meet them.
So you talked about the traveling that you do, and I know that you're in a couple cities right now, but what does an average day look like for Nancy?
It can be a little hectic. I think if you've ever worked in retail, it's very hectic. Average day is going to the store, making sure that everything is running. When you run a brick and mortar, it is like, I think it's like raising a baby. You're in there, you're working, and anything from customer services. And I'm also a hairstylist too, so I jump in when I can. And I always use the analogy of a football game. Sometimes I'm a quarterback, sometimes I'm a coach, sometimes I'm a fan. But anything from phones to cleaning, trash, actually working on the client. And during the day is when I go out. I mean, like today, I had a meeting in downtown, and I enjoy the freedom that comes with entrepreneurship to go out and network with other people when you need to.
Very nice. So now, as far as the book goes, can we talk a little bit about that? Because we're going to go into your networking tips, but you're not the typical entrepreneur that we have on this usually. Usually it's someone that's building a company out of their house, or is doing the tech thing, doing the solopreneur piece. You have, like you said, a brick and mortar business. But before, so I have a couple questions before we get into the networking piece. First question is, with the book, every young female entrepreneur wants to write a book. How did you do it? Did you get it, or do you have a publisher? Did you self-publish? What does that look like?
That is a really good question. I actually wanted to write this book 3 years ago, and I had approached another publisher, and that publisher is actually mentioned in the book, and I didn't really have a relationship with that publisher to move forward with the book, so I held off a couple more years and kept on refining the book. And when I moved to Raleigh, I was talking about how I'm trying to publish the networking diary, and ironically, one of my customers, I was just doing her color and highlights, she said, "Oh, I have a publishing company, but I'm a publishing partner." And her company is called Publishing Unleashed. So there are two ways that people usually know about publishing. There's a big company publishing, like Random House, and then there is self-publishing. Well, I did kind of a hybrid model of it. So I have a publishing partner. So my publishing partner helped me find my editor, put all the pieces together, get the book edited, and actually print it in a form that people can buy either online or on Kindle. And then a percentage of it goes to me and to my publishing partner. So I kind of did a hybrid model. And what I love about it as an entrepreneur is I have complete control over the content. If I wanted to change something on the cover tonight, I can go online and do it. And I can also adjust the pricing as needed. Versus if you go through a big company, they have complete control over everything. Or if you are a solo self-publisher, it might be a little bit tedious to get through the whole process by yourself. So having a publishing partner might be a new thing that people might go into. I'm not sure, but I tried it and I like it.
So yeah, if you've just tuning in now, we're talking to Nancy Nguyen. She is Miss Corporate America 2011. She owns Sweet Tea Salon. She's also a new author of The Networking Diary, and we haven't gotten into networking principles, so if you just showed up, you're in great timing. I am on the live chat, so if you have questions for her, go ahead and type them in. Now, talking about the brick and mortar piece of your business. Now, and now you don't have to answer this, but as far as financing goes, how did you pull all of that together? How did you know how to do that? Was that from your MBA? Was that useful in that part of the process?
The MBA was useful because when I actually have pitched in front of investors for the Sweet Tea line, and the MBA gave me the confidence and the know-how to pitch in front of investors and putting the slideshow together. But as far as the brick and mortar, the finances were there because we had sold the business as a family years ago. So that money was sitting there, and we had sold that business to another family in 2008, and then we purchased it back from that same family. So it was almost in a holding cell for us.
That's nice. Mm-hmm. So were you in your family business prior to starting Sweet Tea Salon?
Yes, I've been in a family business since 2000. So wow. It is very interesting because previously I was just an employee the first time around with the business, and now I'm the president. So when it comes to friends, family, and fools, we need everybody to help with a startup. And now as president, there are a lot of tough decisions to make, sometimes at the spur of the moment. But I think being an employee first, and then going back with the MBA and with the work experience at the White Sox in the city of Chicago, going back, I'm able to apply everything I've learned into this brick and mortar. So it's like my creative playground, and I love it. And it's growing and growing. We've had a 70% growth since last year, and we've been able to donate hundreds of dollars to SPCA, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And I asked one of my clients who's an entrepreneur, I said, "What motivates you every day?" And she said, "The possibilities motivate me." And I have to say, I agree with that. It's all the possibilities that come with it.
Oh, okay. So I think I tweeted out that I'm trying not to cry during Nancy's live stream, but I kind of cry a lot. But her story is so inspirational. So let's get into the networking diary. And Nancy, you have some fans on the chat. Nancy Nguyen rocks. Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of fans here tonight for you. So let's go into the networking diary. Tell us a little bit about the book, first of all.
Well, for years I was collecting notes about networking because while I was getting my MBA, people were asking me about how to network, and I never had an answer. So I had to start observing what I was doing, kind of capturing it. So I had a binder of notes of situations and emails and ideas about networking. Then when I was ready to write the book, doing my research, I realized everybody had already written everything that I had in this binder. So I said, well, I need to repackage a how-to networking book in a different way. So do you remember reading Anne Frank's book, The Diary of Anne Frank?
Of course.
So I went on Amazon and did the look inside thing to just kind of get inspired by the format of it. I said, okay, this is going to be the format. So after that, I went through about 5,000 emails to extract my favorite networking stories, and I printed them all out. Then after that, I decided to come up with just 7 basic principles because as entrepreneurs, we don't have a lot of time to read. And, well, some people are big readers, but for me, it has to be a quick read. So we all know the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I said, fine, let's do 7 networking diary entries. So the way the book is formulated is each chapter starts out with a quote, and it took me days to find these quotes related to the chapter. So after the quote, you go into the real life diary entry, and these are real life conversations, real emails, cut and pasted straight from the emails into the book. Of course, the names have been changed. And then at the end, I give you the takeaways. And after the takeaways, I give you a couple of exercises to apply to your own networking. So it's a very practical book, and you can utilize it. So any chapter you turn to, you're going to have a principle you can apply. Then at the very end, I had my Sweet 16 questions. And I said Sweet 16 because at that time when I was writing, North Carolina State University was doing so well in the basketball championships. I was like, Sweet 16, let's do it. So we have the Sweet 16 questions that was asked over and over again. And these are just my candid answers. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, but they're my answers. And it's a real book. And I think it's a different take on networking because when you Google how to network, you get the basics like make eye contact, shake hands properly, have business cards on you. So this book is beyond that. It's like, okay, we've done all that. So here are my failures, and I'm going to share them with you so that you don't make the same mistakes I've done.
So before we go into the principles, there's a couple things that really stood out to me about you. One, the things that made you different, I guess. The first thing was the fact that you're a stylist and an MBA. I mean, you don't see that very often. But in all seriousness, stylists, I think, are some of the best communicators. They stand there and listen to their clients and are able to talk through problems with them. And people love them because of that. And they're fantastic networkers. So that part of it, I was just like, okay, she's got to be good at what she's talking about. And then to have the MBA to back it all up and the experiences that you've had. I mean, talk to us a little bit about the travel and the 3, you're trilingual and you weren't born in the States. So maybe tell us a little bit about your background with that.
Right. Well, first of all, being a stylist, I tell my team all the time, 80% of the business is people skills and 20% is technical. And you have to do a good job, but people have to like who they're talking to and they're getting their hair done. And that's something that we talk about over and over again. But in speaking of languages, in my salon, there's always 3 languages going on at the same time. And it's just kind of crazy to sit there and just understand everything that's going on. So there's Vietnamese, there's Spanish, there's English, and it's flying everywhere. We have a diverse clientele, too. And the reason why I speak Spanish is because 1, it was my major, and 2, I've been taking Spanish classes since the 2nd grade, and studying in Peru twice helped a lot. And now a lot of our stylists are Hispanic, so I get to practice every day. And I'm an active member of the Hispanic Chamber, so hopefully one day I can rewrite the book in Spanish and get it back out, but translated. So I'm going to take a shot at it, and we'll see how it goes. But
Wow.
we arrived to America when I was 2 months old. And I was born, I don't even know where I was born. It's Bataan, Philippines in my birth certificate. But I don't really know because I've never been there. I can point to you on the map where it's at, but I've never been. But I was born in a refugee camp in the 80s, and we arrived to America with absolutely nothing. My mom didn't even know what a penny was. And to come to a new land with without speaking English, without having even a dime, it was a rough start. So there you go. But my parents, luckily my dad was a diesel mechanic, so he was able to take a test at this truck place, and he worked his way. I mean, he worked as a diesel mechanic by day, and he worked as a busboy at a Chinese restaurant at night, worked from 7 a.m. to midnight every day. And then my mom worked at a t-shirt printing company, and now those companies, they can do everything with technology, but with her, it was literally printing t-shirts. And I remember sitting there all day watching her. But over time, they both became entrepreneurs. So it's neat to see them work at factories growing up and then becoming entrepreneurs. So I think it's a comforting thing to see your parents as entrepreneurs and succeeding. So it was a little bit easier transition for me to leave my companies and become an entrepreneur.
I thank you so much for being on this live stream, because you're definitely the picturesque American dream, making things happen, really. And so I'm very excited to get into these 7 principles to hear how it is that you're able to, really take all of your past experiences and get to the point where you are today. And again, if you're just joining the live stream, yes, and people are all over the chat saying that you're very inspiring, and I absolutely agree. So, Nancy, tell us a little bit about these principles. There's 7 of them.
Right. They're very basic principles. The first one, it's networking is not about you. I hear people say, "Oh, I'm afraid to go networking." I said, you have to have the mentality of, when you go out, it's not about what you want. It's about how much can you give? How many problems can you solve tomorrow when you go out to the networking event? And you have people that talk about themselves for about 20 minutes, and they give you a card to say, "Hey, call me for the services." So that's principle 1. Principle 2 is defining your networking goal. The feedback that I got from a friend when I sent out the table of contents, he said, "Wait a minute, what about networking goals? Plural." I said, no, it's networking goal. Your goal is to build a relationship. If you don't remember anything else about networking, your primary goal is to go out and build a relationship. There may or may not be a sale that comes out of that, but without a relationship, you're not going to get anything.
So
anywhere.
Nancy, really fast. So with that in mind, if our goal is to build a relationship, what do you think about the idea? I know it's path.com or path, I don't know what you call it, the social network. The concept is that there's 50 people that is in our closest network, that those are the 50 people that we're able to build relationships with. Is that something that you live your life by, or do you think that you can kind of build relationships with all sorts of people? You talked about your client, really, who was able to hook you up with the publishing. So what's your take on that?
I think, 1, we can learn something new from everybody. And then 2, I really, truly believe we have to expand out. For example, this weekend, I'm speaking at the National Black MBA Association. And sometimes people say, "But you're not Black." I said, "Oh, you don't have to be. You need to expand. You need to go into these groups." I'm part of the Hispanic Chamber, and people come up to me, "Wait a minute, you're not Hispanic." I said, "This is what's wrong with networking, in my opinion. People are afraid to venture out of their groups, and it's my honest opinion that we need to be open-minded, because this world comes in all kinds of colors." And that's my theme in Sweet Tea, actually, is that country comes in all colors. But absolutely, I do think those 50 people you can build a relationship with, but why stay there? That's boring. Go out, expand.
Very cool. So now we just went over the first 2 principles. What's principle number 3?
So we've connected, now be prepared. This is a story about the publisher that I wanted to connect with. And I remember when I sat down to meet with him, I did not have any questions ready. I was a complete waste of his time, and he let me know. And I remember sitting there thinking, I should not have been in this meeting. I should not have wasted his time. I should have had at least 5 questions ready for him. And it was a hard lesson to learn, because I went home crying my eyes out the whole night, because he wasn't very nice about it when he told me that I was wasting his time. Definitely be prepared when you go and meet, especially executives, because their time is very limited. So research, use LinkedIn, find out who they are, and definitely tell them what you're looking for, because a lot of people are like, "Well, what do you want from me?" You have to be able to answer the question. This is what I want from you.
Very
Simple.
nice. Okay, so principle number 4.
And that leads to valuing your contact's time. This is a quick story how I was waiting for an answer from my contact, and I simply asked, would I be able to get this product by the certain date? And this person was volunteering his time and because they asked that question, he let me know that if I wanted to start paying him $210 an hour, then he'll give me anything I want when I want it. So that was a big oops on me. If people are being generous with their time, then we have to respect that, which is common sense. But for the purpose of the book, it is a lesson that I'm teaching.
Very nice. All right, so we just went over 1 through 4 out of 7, and then our 5th principle is?
Follow up or forget about it. How many times have you gone out and you receive 10 business cards and you don't hear from anybody ever again? It happens quite often, and it's the follow-up that counts. I think networking is the beginning, but follow-up is exactly where it counts. And if you're not going to follow up, don't even bother networking, in my opinion. And this was a situation where I asked a lot from a professor in the beginning, and I forgot to follow up on a couple of things. And he said to me in an email, I just wanted to write to you to complain about the hard work that has been given to me. And he was being sarcastic, of course, but I learned that, even if it's a simple, hey, I don't have an answer right now, but I just wanted to follow up to tell you that we're still in communication, and as soon as I have something for you, I'll let you know. But the follow-up is the most important part of networking.
So I want to tell everyone, if you're on the live chat, make sure that you type in questions for Nancy. She is a brick and mortar business owner. I mean, you heard her past. It's fantastic, and so many questions can come out of it. I can think of a million, but obviously time is precious here. So I want to finish it up with your 6th and 7th principle. And thank you so much for sharing these with us. Her book is available at thenetworkingdiary.com. And so make sure that you check it out. Fantastic book. All these principles are great. And like we were talking about earlier, the fact that she's a stylist, her background, everything that she's been able to achieve really puts an interesting spin on these concepts. So principle 6, Nancy.
Always be professional. This was a situation where an HR professional threw me under the bus because I had created a Facebook fan page for an organization. And this person wrote to me saying, how dare you go behind our backs and create this? And I was very confused because I thought Facebook was for anybody and we can create a page for anything we want, because at that time I had created the fan page for the Admirals Club for American Airlines, because I loved the Admirals Club there, and they loved it. The executive people, they called me. They said, hey, can we actually have access to this page and utilize it? And they've grown tremendously. But I was a little bit teed off with this email, and I had written, I think, 1 email that I never sent to this HR professional, but you as a reader get to read it, and it never got sent. But so the whole point is no matter what, and I actually had other mentors say, don't send it, this is how you need to respond. And I never responded. It was actually a phone call, which is what it came down to. But you as a reader get to read this email from her and from me. But the whole point is no matter what, no matter where your emotions are in a situation, always, always, always be professional.
Very nice. Oh, I'm excited to read the letter now.
It's real. It's raw. So.
Well, and it's funny because someone said earlier in the chat how genuine you are, and you really are. Talking to you and hearing about everything that you've been able to achieve, you could have this kind of inflated ego, especially when you're talking about networking. That's kind of the typical network guru type person, and you're just so the opposite. So your 7th principle is?
The 7th principle is that networking is absolutely everywhere. I mean, when you're in a plane, when you're in a buffet line. I mean, I tell you, I was in Chicago once, and I landed one of the biggest clients for my boss just because I turned around and asked, and during the buffet line, and asked him what he was doing there. And we connected, figuring out why he was there. So I took that person, brought into my boss, and they signed a contract. So networking is everywhere. But in this particular book, the end of 2010, I was missing Chicago, and it got really cold in Raleigh. So I bundled up, and I had a networking breakfast, my first one. I was really excited to go walk across the street because I'm green, and I was bundled up, and I wanted breakfast, and I was feeling like I was back in Chicago. So I walked across the street, and yes, there was heavy traffic. It was 9 o'clock in the morning, but the light was red, and I, kind of meandered through, and out of nowhere, and I kid you not, looked left and right twice, I was clipped by an SUV on the shoulder. So I was there 9 o'clock in the morning, face down, and ironically, I had a BlackBerry in my hand, and I fell on it, so that saved my wrist from breaking, and I had a rim in my hat, so it saved my face, because I had those tooth chips before, and I was like, checking my teeth. And mind you, I was getting ready to compete in this corporate America pageant. I was like, I do need my teeth for this pageant. So Anyhow, I got up and all I could think about, I mean, this is December. You know how salons are in December. This is your biggest money making month of the year. You cannot not work. I mean, you just have to be there. So I stood up and I was making sure my arm was still working. And then I walked across the street and I was in so much pain that someone said, I don't think she speaks English, because I was in so much shock. I went back to my store to call my client for that morning. I said, I cannot take you today.
Oh my
I had an
goodness.
accident. I can't. I'm sorry. And I've always, through pageantry and through a lot of the things I've been through in my life, I've always had a lot of composure. And this is when I really had composure. Then I grabbed a stack of business cards, because Duke Medical Hospital is across the street. I said, if I'm going to go into the hospital, there might be an opportunity to network. So I was there and we were talking. I was talking to the nurses. I was shaking like a leaf, and they told me I had a broken collarbone. And I was like, "Oh, that's great. I'm across the street if you ever need a haircut." And I know this like extreme networking, but the point is that whether you're on a bus or just anywhere, I mean, at a 4-year-old's birthday party, you just don't know. I mean, there's some way somehow that you can build a relationship with somebody and help somebody, connect them to something that they might find useful. But that's just a final example, and it's worked. I mean, you just never know. And another quick last example is last weekend I just judged the Miss Charlotte USA pageant, and the winner, Kristen Cooper, her mother had passed away from breast cancer in December, and two other her family members had passed away from the same thing. So I connected her name to the Lotus Foundation here in Raleigh, and turns out that she's going to be one of the spokesmodels for this breast cancer awareness organization. And the president does not even know yet, because I talked to one of the board members. The president is on the cruise right now. So when she comes back, she's going to find out all these things that we've been up to. So you just never know. I mean, networking is everywhere, but you just have to be aware.
All right, so Nancy, thank you so much for sharing the 7 tips. Everyone, make sure that you check out the networkingdiary.com. And Nancy, do you have a couple questions, or some time for a couple questions from the chatters? Okay, so the first question is from Tiffany C. Branch. Nancy, how do you manage the time to network as an entrepreneur? I find that I just don't have enough time.
Scheduling it. It's the same question somebody asked me today. It's like, where do you find time to sleep? I schedule everything. And I'm not married to my planner, because I miss some things sometimes too, but you have to really schedule out networking time. I mean, it might be once a month, if that, but scheduling out really does help.
All right, now, and Fit Jamie's in the chat, and she's saying that I'm in the B2B biz. I build websites for fitness professionals. I struggle with figuring out the type of event to attend. Any advice on how to determine the nature of networking event to attend?
I would say finding people who've already been there and ask. And if you don't know anybody, like when I moved from Chicago to Raleigh, I had no idea who to talk to. So I went to all of them. Every single women's networking event that was available, I went to all of them. So that's year 1. Year 2, I've kind of weeded out the ones I don't want to go to again. So you can either do it yourself, or you can ask people who've already gone to those events and ask them, would this thing be valuable for me to attend?
All right, so we have one last question, and Sabina, I think that's how you pronounce your name. I apologize if I butcher that. But Nancy, what should be the first step if I want to start my own business?
Depends on what kind of business. Find out who's already doing the same thing you're doing and ask them a lot of questions. So network with that person who's already doing something similar you're doing, and make sure that you're using the principles, I guess,
Yeah,
to prepare to ask them.
Get the book.
And for me, I have a lot of friends who do the same thing I do, and I still stumble with either employee engagement or using a piece of technology. So definitely understand that whatever you're trying to do, it's probably already been done somewhere. So find that person who's already done it, and I'm sure they're more than happy to share some of their thoughts with your business.
All right, so Nancy, there's a few other questions in the chat room, but I'm going to go ahead and tell everyone we've run out of time, unfortunately. But Nancy, where can people find you on Twitter? Because you're pretty active on that, right?
Yes, it's at NANCYNGUYEN23, like Michael Jordan's number, or at sweetteasalon.com.
Perfect.
And T is just the letter T for my middle initial.
All right. And then one more time, where can we find your book?
thenetworkingdiary.com. Everything is there. If you have a Kindle, it's on there too for Amazon. And if you want a sneak peek of it, if you go to Amazon.com, I finally learned how to upload all that so you can have a sneak peek.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on Young Female Entrepreneurs Live. It was a joy to speak with you. You're so positive and just very inspirational. And I hope everyone will go and check out Nancy after we're done with the live stream. But otherwise, thank you again. I hope you have much success with the book. I mean, it's fantastic lessons. I'm very excited to pick up a copy myself, especially after some of the stories. I mean, the email thing. I want to know what the lady said now. So it'll be fun. All right, so we were just watching Nancy Nguyen of thenetworkingdiary.com, and she shared with us 7 principles of networking success. Make sure that you pick up a copy of her book and follow her over on Twitter, like her on Facebook, and check out her salon. You've been watching Young Female Entrepreneurs Live, again, part of youngfemaleentrepreneurs.com. That happens every Thursday here at ovaleye.tv/live at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. Next Thursday is Erica of sittingaround.com. She's fantastic, a mom, a tech entrepreneur. She was on the cover of Entrepreneur Magazine. I mean, the list goes on for that woman. So hopefully we'll see you back here next Thursday. Thank you so much for coming to the live chat, and have a fantastic week.